All right, so I'm going to call this meeting to order April 7th at 7:05 PM. We're going to do a quick attendance. Karen Christensen,
Yes, I'm here.
David King,
Hey, good evening.
Tom Lansner,
I am here.
Tom Talamini,
Yep, I'm here.
Noreen, and Bill, you're still not here, right? All right, so if somebody could make a motion to have Noreen as a member until Bill can join us. Anybody?
Tom Talamini, I'll make a motion that Noreen become a member until Bill can join us with his computer issues.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Tom L,
Yes.
Tom T.
Yes.
And motion passes. All right, so next on the agenda is the budget workshop and 2A, which is police, emergency management, communications, and police commission. So I am just going to turn it right over to you guys. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for having us here this evening. We've presented this now several times, so we're going to brief it up as much as we can. We are in an era of police accountability. It's official. We're post the Police Accountability Act, and the state and national voice is giving us a message requesting police reform. We've heard that message, and we're presenting a budget tonight that incorporates grassroots change. And with that, I'd like to pull up my PowerPoint. Share screen. Please tell me you can see my PowerPoint.
Nope. It's on the other
can.
screen. Oh, you're not showing
Yeah,
anything,
okay.
actually. There you go.
Can you see it actually playing?
Yes, sir. It's not playing yet, but it's loaded.
All right, hold on one second. Don't worry, I'm good at this.
There you go. Nope.
Yeah, hold on a second. It just dumped me out of it. I don't know what it's doing.
So on the orange toolbar upper left, there's you gotta have to hit the play button, the play projector button right next to the repeat to the left.
Hold on one second. Now
There you
you
go.
see it, right?
Yeah.
All right, so it's fiscal year 21-22 by our police commission, and tonight we have with us myself and Deputy Chief Hart, Lieutenant Carl, and Sergeant Lieb, and we're supported by Bill Freeman, our analytical guy. So we're going to move right along and turn it over to Sergeant Lieb.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to give you guys about 10 minutes overview of the Police Accountability Bill, what it means for us as a department and as a town, and how it impacts our budget moving forward. Chief, if you push it through. So the Accountability Act came out in July of 2020. It was in response to the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis. It includes various unfunded mandates for law enforcement agencies to comply with, and it also gives timelines on when we have to meet those mandates by. As you'll see as we go through the presentation, we have already met many of those mandates well ahead of schedule. We've been ahead of the curve, and if we haven't met them yet, we have a plan to get there. So the first mandate I'll talk about is the implicit bias training. That deals with the unconscious biases we all have when dealing with certain groups of people, and it helps officers recognize those and mitigate those so those unconscious biases don't impact decisions when we're investigating an incident. The second one is the badges and name tags. That was kind of an easy mandate. That just helps us be more readily identifiable to the public. So our outermost garment is going to have our badge and our name tag at all times, and we're in full compliance of that already. One of the major components of the Police Accountability Act was the use of force changes. So this first part doesn't impact us a lot. It has to do with neck restraints and chokeholds. We can only use neck restraints and chokeholds when we think our life is in imminent danger of death or serious physical injury, or a third person's life is in serious imminent risk of death or serious injury. We don't condone neck restraints. We don't train in chokeholds. We focus more of our training on de-escalation procedures and things of that nature. And that's a big part of this Police Accountability Act is de-escalation procedures. Before they rule if a officer had a justified deadly force circumstance, they're going to want to see if their de-escalation procedures were exhausted. They're also going to look to see, did the officer's actions, did his conduct increase the risk of deadly force? So it's extremely important that we get all of our officers trained in de-escalation procedures, especially when dealing with people going through crisis, responding to people, mental health issues. We don't have 100% of our officers trained in that yet. It's sought after training. Every department's trying to get that. And when COVID came about, it shut down a lot of the training and seats were very limited. But we're committed to getting 100% of our department trained in de-escalation procedures, and we need to, because all these incidents are now, as you can see, on camera. That's the next mandate. By July 2022, every officer has to have a body camera. Every cruiser has to have a dash camera. We're way ahead of the curve here. As of January, we're in full compliance with this mandate. And we've been very creative. We got a donation of the body cameras, which was $75,000 savings. And we were able to get all the dash cameras working, and had, took some money from the asset forfeiture fund to pay for it all. So it cost the town very little to comply with this mandate, which is pretty impressive. So again, that's why the training is so important moving forward, because it's going to protect us in the town from liability and our officers from liability when we get that training. Third part is mental health. We had to come up with a plan, and Lieutenant Carl is going to talk about this plan. We had to come up with a plan to see if it was feasible to have a social worker respond to certain calls with an officer out on the beat. So any calls dealing with mental health, is it feasible to send a social worker with an officer? And we have a plan for that. We already sent it to the Police Officer Standards and Training Council. You're going to hear about that plan from Lieutenant Carl. Secondary aspect of this is officers have to take a urine test that screens for drugs every 3 years, and they also have to take a behavioral health assessment every 5 years. Now, we have already started this process. Our plan is to get 20% of officers done each year. And as far as I'm concerned, or I'm aware of it, I think the chief can attest to this, we're the first department to already set this up. I already have my appointment for my urine analysis. We're well ahead of the curve in this area, and we're committed to getting that done as well, in getting compliant of that mandate. The last piece I'll speak about is a police accreditation. As many of you know, we started the accreditation process in January 2019, way ahead of the Police Accountability Act. The Police Accountability Act now mandates that every agency be accredited by 2025. The program we're in is with the state of Connecticut, and it's a 3-tiered process. We just got assessed at the tier 1 level, and basically what the accreditation program is it helps agencies reduce liability and increase professionalism by formulation of our policies into law enforcement best practices. So an assessment team will come out, they'll check our policies, and we have to prove that we actually abide by our policies, and we do that through letting them read police reports, photographs, and interviews with personnel. The only caveat to this is the Police Accountability Act requires agencies to comply with the national accreditation process. We're a part of the state process. We started the state process well in advance of this Accountability Act. The problem with this, the national process is it's a $13,000 cost to start and a $5,000 fee every year, whereas the state process is free. So again, it's another unfunded mandate by the Police Accountability Act that we're trying to get around by trying to get them to put back the state process into the Police Accountability Act. And Senator Anwar has a bill. He put a bill, I think it's bill number 126, that will put the state process back into play. And that, so we think that's going to happen. We don't feel like there's a lot of opposition of having agencies be accredited through the state rather than national standards. And we think that our current plan will get us accredited by the end of 2022, which is 3 years in advance of the current deadline of 2025.
So that's what we've been doing for accreditation. As you can see, the last few times that we did present this, we were not accredited. We were assessed by post inspectors. The post council met, reviewed all their reports and our proofs, and we were awarded Tier 1 accreditation on March 10th. Now we're going to move on to the actual budget part. Again, the biggest focus for our budget this year will be the mental health team, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on that. Before we get there, Deputy Chief Hart, you can take it from here.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Roger Hart. I'm the Deputy Chief of Police. I just want to make one note. As Sergeant Lee had mentioned all the way through his 5 to 10 minute spiel there, the Police Accountability Act has put a lot of unmandated or unfunded mandates upon our agency, and you will see very little of those costs trickling down into the budget that we're about to present to you today. And I think that's very important for us to note that we've used a lot of different novel ideas to try to cover the cost rather than come to the town and ask for the funds in our budget. So this is a normal budget that we've presented many years to this group, and you'll see it's changed a little bit since we went to the Munis system. The lines have changed locations a little bit, but for the most part, it's the same budget. The only increases that you're going to see in this budget are employment agreements and collective bargaining agreements. You see the one, it looks like an increase in the 76,549, but that is actually money that was transferred from the officer salary line to cover Bill Freeman's salary. He's our analytics person. And our next line, Chief, if you could progress it, is the officer line, which is in fact was reduced by the 76,000 and actually was reduced by some senior officers retiring. But we do have a nominal increase in that because that is having to do with our desire to have another officer added to our department to cover the mental health issues that we'll talk about in a little bit. The next line is a dispatcher salary line. 19,115, that increase is only the negotiated wages that were put into effect when we settled the dispatcher contract during this last year. Excuse me, my voice is kind of going here. The next line is an administrative salary line. That's the chief and I's line. That's the increase of our employment agreements. We kept the PD overtime line flat moving forward, and the training salary, just in an effort to try to reduce anywhere we could, we reduced that by $1,000. The next line is our longevity line. That line includes not only longevity, but also includes officers who have gone for advanced degrees. Because of retirements, we have a nominal decrease there of $799. So that's the entire salary side of our our budget will go to the operations. Our professional services line, we found that our radar units were getting a little beat up and needed to have a little bit of tweaking. So we planned to add an extra $3,000 in replace and or repair our current radar units because, speed through neighborhoods is our #1 complaint that we deal with on a daily basis. Vehicle maintenance, a nominal increase of $2,000 is mainly because did an assessment and we found that tires are going up in price, and we're having, especially with the new 2 new Chevys, they don't take the same tires as the Fords. So we have a bump in increase of tires in that line. We left the travel line at $1,000, so 0 increase there. 0 increase on supplies and equipment. This equipment line, as you remember, was put in there several years ago. It's basically any department who's looking for a special piece of equipment that doesn't meet the capital standard would go here. We asked for a speed sign last year. This year, to keep the budget down, we're not asking for any specialized equipment. Uniforms, as we kept flat at 0 increase. And dues and fees, a nominal increase for a couple additional IACP memberships. That's the International Chiefs of Police Association. So on our ops side, we're looking for a nominal increase of $665. So as you can see, the total increase at the bottom should match. The only thing that wouldn't match the paperwork we gave you folks would be the dispatcher salaries line. That was changed. It was a decrease of $1,000. The treasurer asked us to include the collective bargaining wages for the dispatchers, so that bumped it to $19,115, but everything should match.
So real quick, we've given this presentation a lot, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but the deputy chief and I have been together as a team since 2007. We've strived to be cost effective and transparent and trustworthy, and we think we've achieved that. We work very hard at working with our budget and turning in what we don't use. So we just want to mention what we've done over the last 6 years with the budget. We've had unexpended budgeted funds, and in 2014-15 we turned back $68,309. 15-16 it went up a little bit to $69,956. 16-17 we returned $67,158. 17-18 $136,993. And then 18-19, 32,273. And then last year we did 133,016. So primarily that's attached to salaries and some other expenditures, but we're committed to strong financial stewardship, which is the focus of this slide, and we're serious about it.
And some people may look at that slide and think, well, maybe you're asking for too much money. But if you crunch those numbers, you'll see that they range between 0.8% of our budget to only 4.5% of our budget. So things happen during a year. Some of those years that you saw the higher numbers, they were salary numbers, generally from a retirement that occurred, or maybe we couldn't fill a position. But our point is simple. We ask you folks for a realistic budget, and we're going to spend the amount of money that we need to get through. And if there's money left at the end of the year, we will not spend it willy-nilly. We'll return it to the general fund.
I don't know how I'm going to follow up willy-nilly, but I'll try. The next that we're going to focus on is the police reform aspect of it. The police accountability bill requires us to look at social work and embedded social workers. And we truly think we have a better plan. And I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Matt Carl.
Okay, so good evening. For those of you that may not know me, I'm Lieutenant Matthew Carl. I've been with the agency for 25 years, and I've held different positions over those years, with the most recent being the administrative lieutenant. So when this came about, we are obviously tasked with, and I think unjustifiably, solving the community's problems when it comes to mental health. You're seeing this all throughout the nation with increased use of force and shootings, and sometimes, unfortunately, people's lives, officers and civilians, get hurt in the process. So the attitude of just call the police, they'll come and fix it is unrealistic with the types of calls we're seeing. And I'm going to handle the bulk of this and try to move along as fast as we can, but there's some parts of this I want to slow down and really explain and show how we got to where we are. But so I could talk for hours about how we are and why we got to where we are in society, but we don't have enough time for that. But a lot of the departments are trying to focus in on social workers being part of their police culture. And some of them have had success and some of them have not. We believe we have a better system than anybody's. And as you'll see through this presentation, when we go through it, you'll see where we've gotten local, state, and we're starting to get some national attention for the program that we put together. So our program is really a 50-50 program. It helps the community, but it also has aspects that help internally with the police officers. And I hope I detail that as we go along. So just looking at some of this, this is an innovative program, and you'll see a slide come up. Sometimes I'll read from the slide, and if something comes up, right, you have a question, write it down, or by all means, you can interject. You won't throw me off too much. Matter of fact, you might help me a little bit in my presentation. So today's society, we must recognize the demand for police reform, re-imaging the police department. We got to deliver a better service, more comprehensive service for the types of calls that we're handling. The primary task of social workers is to provide services for the community residents, such as crisis intervention, mediation, and referrals. The types of social problems that involve police social workers vary by police departments, but typically include mental health, domestic violence, juvenile delinquent, and addiction. These types of calls that we're having, they're going to happen anywhere. We're seeing these reoccurring calls in East Windsor, and you're going to hear me say the word reoccurring non-criminal throughout this presentation, because that's really what we want this mental health team to focus in on. And these types of calls are going to happen regardless, and we're seeing an increase. And if they're not handled properly, you're seeing at local, state, and the federal level, you're seeing that they're resulting in arrests, they're resulting in use of force, and unfortunately, injuries. The latest data will show that you're 16 times more likely to get injured and or cause death when you're dealing with a subject of mental health. That's out in our community. So what we're doing right here now is you're going to see is I want to take a minute to talk about the analyticals. So you're going to see mental health, suicide related issues, opioids, alcohol, and other addiction, and domestic and medical and juvenile issues that come through this process. But the next part of this, when the chief opens it up, we've used our numbers. So one of the things that I mentioned before, I've been here for 25 years, and I've seen a lot of good things come through this department, and I've seen systems that worked, systems that didn't work. We spent a lot of time investing in a records management system, RMS system, and a new CAD that you folks helped pay for several years ago. And that information, that new CAD system allows us to deep dive the information and do data-driven analysis of what we're doing. So we hired, and you'll see it up on a screen here, Chief, if you could just hold it there for a second. We hired an analyst from a local police department that retired. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think it's the best investment the department's made since I've been here. And I say this because we've always known that there was calls out there. We always knew that what we were busy in districts or what shifts or what was going on. But we now have a tool to use, pull the data out and use this information for data-driven analysis on target areas. And so in essence, we're not just throwing money at something to see if it's going to work. We believe that through this program, we can show when, where, and how it's going to work, and that the taxpayer dollars and the investments that we already have, not only in the records management system that we've already purchased, but the officer that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, all the investments we have in her. So this first screen you're seeing, if everybody can see, it's a year-to-date analysis of our calls. Along the left side of your screen, you'll see the top part, you'll see the different years, and you'll see CFS. That's our calls for service, it stands for. You'll see our CFSs, you'll see mental health maps, NIBRs, and victimology. And I'm not going to take a lot of time going through those tabs. I want to mainly focus in on what you're seeing here is thus far to date, we've got 3,057 calls for service, 88 arrests, 274 traffic violations, 95 accidents, and 70 calls for mental health or have a mental health component to it. And then you got the wheel that was there that would talk about the different calls and things like that. But the chief jumped over to the mental health map, which I want to spend some time with. I'm going to take you around and I'm going to tell the chief to open up the ones as I go. So hold on right here, chief. I'm going to take you around from top left, top right, bottom left, and see if I can explain sort of how we got to where we are. So this is a deep dive of 2020's data. Now we did the best we could. Bill wasn't around for most of it. Bill Freeman, the analytical person that we have. So we took our best effort at what we had. We're in the process of cleaning up some of that data so that next year data and as we go forward, we get a more accurate account of what we're doing. But the best account that we have is that we had 141 mental health and addiction related services calls in 2020. Chief, could you open up that top left screen? So as this screen opens up, the chief is in the bottom right corner, and you can see that last year, 2020, I'm talking about, we had 6 robberies. We had 29 burglaries. You can't read it. DWIs, we had 30. We're going to go to domestics on the bottom there in the middle. We had 31 domestics. We had 33 assaults. There was 36 stolen motor vehicles, and we had 169 larcenies. Now we're over to breach of peace. The breach of peace were 171. That's in green, and we'll drop down to mental health. We had 141 calls that resulted in some aspect of mental health. Now I want to stop there for a second. I wanted to show those other ones. The reason why I was bringing you through the robberies and the burglaries and other stuff is those are criminal related. Those are what the police should be focused in on. The mental health is the addition to the calls that we're getting or those calls that added an element of mental health. 141 calls to handle for a police agency is quite a bit. Now, if you were in the detective division, which I spent the majority of my career, for those who know me, if you had 141 investigations that you had to do throughout the year, it's astronomical for an agency our size. And the mental health calls, they require follow-ups, otherwise they become reoccurring. And we don't put together these long-lasting solutions that are going to help the problem. So we ended up going back out with them. Much like criminal investigations that require constant follow-up and things to go through to solve, you couldn't handle 141. So I don't want you to look at the number 141 and say, well, you know what? That doesn't seem like a lot when you plug it into all the CFS numbers that the police department handles. So it's a significant number, if you can see that. Chief, if you can go back. Now, with that data, what we wanted to do, again, I didn't want you to think that we just throw money at something and see if it's going to work. We wanted to take a look at when are we getting these calls. So you'll see that top right, it's broken down. He opens it up. It's broken down in the days of the week. Each pie represents a certain day. Obviously, you guys can read that. It's Sunday through Saturday. So the significance of this is just to show you the larger pies have the more time. Chief, if you can go back, and this is where it gets a little bit tough when we're not in person. Without, scroll down to the bottom right, but don't click on anything yet. So the bottom right represents the calls by hour of the day. So you start at 00, that's obviously midnight, goes on to 23, that's 11 p.m. So you can see, we know how many calls we get for the hour of the day that we have throughout the week. Now, if the chief scrolls back up and hits on, say, Monday, click on Monday, you'll see the data change. This just represents what we're seeing on a Monday. So it still goes through midnight all the way to 11 p.m. But it changes to the number of calls we're seeing on the Monday, on every Monday, or the specific Monday averages, and what hours of the day. So if you look on a Monday, you could see at 2100 hours, that's 9 p.m., you could see we've had 5 significant amount of mental health. And then if you scroll over to the left, which is a bottom left, I haven't discussed that yet, you can see the types of calls that resulted in mental health. And on this particular one on a Monday, on the bottom left, you could see aided persons, check on the welfare, and medical aids, and assist other police agencies. Those are the top ones. Going back to the overall look for the entire week, if you look at the entire week and the entire year, the bottom left, Chief, if you could hit on that one and enlarge that. The significance of this I'd like to talk about is the most popular call that we have is medical aid. That leads to mental health. The next one is aided person. The next one is check on the welfare. And the fourth one with the number 9 on it is the breach of peace. So the fourth popular call that we go on is the first one that has an element of a crime or what the presence of the police would be responding to. The other 3 are non-criminal calls for service. So the significance of this screen is it just shows that our community, our local community, the types of calls they're calling the police for. And you'll hear me say non-reoccurring, non-police reoccurring matters. So Chief, if you can get out of that. And let's go back to home for a minute. Along the left side of the screen, you can see other tabs, and you can see maps. If you click over to maps, Chief, this is a map of the mental health calls. Each dot represents a call for service for mental health. And you can see the cluster around the Warehouse Point and the center of Broadbrook. If he expands that, you can see those clusters. If you go up comparatively go to 2021 calls for service, Chief, it's the third one down. So this is jumping out of that last year's data. This is this year's data, calls for service to date. Now, obviously, we were on April 7th. We haven't been through even half the year. And each one of those blue dots is a call for service for the police. So you can see it's townwide and we're fairly active. Going back to, there's a heat signature one too. We have different ones you can show the heat so you can clearly see where most of that is. So with that data, if you go back to that data, you can see where we have data-driven analysis where we can focus, if we put this team together and it's funded, we can put the officer and the workers that are going to work around that in this wraparound services team and hyper focus on the areas that need to be addressed. And that frees up, and I'll talk about it later in the future, that frees up the officers to do what they're hired to do. And that's follow-up investigations, motor vehicle accidents, interviews for criminal matters, and just provide a better service for the town of East Windsor. We're not tied up on the mental health calls. Chief's hovering over this victimology button. I wanted to show you, Chief, if you can click that. This is, some of you have seen this presentation before, might not have seen this. So we looked at the victim in the top. If you go left to right like you're reading, you see victim by race, by sex, domestic related, and victim by residency, residents, non-residents. The bottom left to right, we broke it down to the districts within the police department, the locations, the types of calls that would result in victims, obviously domestics being the highest, and the victim by the shift. And I wanted to show this to highlight the value of Bill Freeman and the analysis that he can get us from a records management system that the town already paid for, an analyst that the town is now able to use to show the police, hey, this area needs to be addressed, this area not so much. This is what's going on. Did you know about this? So we're not just sitting back saying, hey, we're just telling a story about how busy we are or what is working and what's not working. We can show that data going forward. And I just think it's an invaluable tool, just to give you my humble opinion. Chief, you could see he's hovering over this number 70. Last year we had 141. And like I said, the data is better this year. You can see we already have 70 calls for service that related into that. So I don't want to say that we're definitely going to outpace or outperform what we did last year. So there's a need for that. Chief, you want to take a minute and finish up anything if I missed it?
So I think this data clearly shows what our community calls us for. When they pick up the phone and they dial our number or they dial 911, they're requesting help in the area of mental health. And this mental health team, as we go about it and describe it in further detail, directly attacks that problem and gives us a creative, holistic solution that's going to involve a lot of town entities.
All right, so now the chief's going to jump out of that analysis if you're all still with us, and he's going to go to the next screen. So as I mentioned, we have a strong need for a permanent solution for these reoccurring calls. And, you know, our plan is we needed to come up with a comprehensive plan, and I think we've done it. We need to free up the police, as I mentioned before, for the types of calls that the police are very good at. And that's our traffic accidents, our follow-up investigations, our incidents that happen in our large populous areas, and just frankly, police matters. So the Sergeant Lieb discussed before that the Accountability Act makes every police department in the state of Connecticut address their police and say, hey, what kind of plan do you have if you want to integrate social workers into your communities or into your police department? How would you go about doing that? And it basically requires us to do this. So that part of it, you can see we're talking about a more comprehensive plan. That part of the integrating it into our society or our town is what we're basically addressing. But there's also a couple, Chief's catching up with me now. So there's a couple things that we've done with this. Now, I've talked a lot about the program and the data, and now I want to go into how we're going to address this and put the face with the actual name. Some of you may know Tamara Stepien. She is a police officer that has worked with us for about 10 years. About 4 years ago, I'm going to briefly tell you a story, and I'm going to highlight her a little bit. She's very humble, and I don't know if she would agree with this, but those of you that have met her, had the privilege of meeting her, she's a wonderful human being, and I just say that from a personal note. Tamara came to the chief and the deputy chief about 4 years ago with this idea that she was going to go back to school. She had her BS, but she wanted to focus in on social work, and she wanted to obtain her master's in social work. Very difficult program, very costly program. The chief and the deputy had the foresight in the agency long before we had accountability and the issues that we've seen from the national crisis we've suffered this last year. They had the foresight to say, you know what, we're going to go ahead, we're going to support that. We'll see where it comes in the future. So Tamara was committed to the program. She went to Westfield. She became a social work master's, obtained her master's in social work. She did her clinical hours, about 900 hours. This last November, she took a license in the state of Connecticut and got licensed in the state. And she's one of very, very few, if any, officers I know in the state of Connecticut that have these credentials and are certified police officers. I don't think there's any other ones that I know currently working. So I say that because she is definitely sought after. The other issue with Tamara is, if we can go to the next slide, Chief, I think it's, we'll talk about how the program is going to lay it out. I want to talk about how this is a rare opportunity. Tamara also leads our peer support team, and she's also trains with our crisis intervention team. So Derek alluded to, or Sergeant Lee alluded to before, this crisis intervention training. It's a 5-day training. It teaches our officers how to respond to calls, to get into mindset when you're going to these types of calls. You want to get into your mindset of gathering the information you have. What kind of mental health call, or am I going on a mental health call? The dispatchers are trained, or we want them trained to be able to start extracting that information so that they can give it to the officer, decide whether we need additional resources on scene. What we can start to employ our de-escalation tactics, so we don't have to go hands-on and have use of force type of scenario that increase injuries to officers and or the citizens. So it's just a mindset, and it's a training that get the officers thinking about different types of things that they do. When they get to the scene, they can start to thinking about our policies. They're thinking about whether we even have the authority to do what we're doing at the time, or maybe there's a better solution. There's time and distance that they can create to get some more help there. And if they do have a plan that they put together, it's a comprehensive plan to help the citizen and provide a long-lasting effect on their lives and our community. And also it opens up for an opportunity for follow-ups and referrals. And whatever action they take, they're constantly trained to reassess. The peer support team that you see up on there now, it's a team that's put together with our officers. We collaborate with other area PDs. And, you know, our profession is demanding. And certainly we've been put to the test this last year. And one of the things I can say that unequivocally I'm proud of being an East Windsor police officer is I've seen the growth in 25 years. And I've seen the advancement that our police department has made professionally and in the way we act, the way we address the community. And we have responded, and I believe ahead of the curve. For all the things that you're seeing this nation go through, we've been ahead of the curve. But those things have effects on the police officers themselves. They see horrific things, they see terrible things, and they have families and they go home to these families. Well, that peer support team is put in place for other officers to talk to work through their issues, and have an internal support system for them and their families to move forward and get through the issue, so we don't have these worker comp cases and stuff like that. You see the crisis intervention team, I jumped out of turn there. It's throw the chief a curveball on that one right there. So, and then the other thing is I talked a little bit about the training for department-wide de-escalation. We have maybe half of our officers that are trained in that crisis intervention, and we have maybe 33% of our dispatchers. And we're trying to get those, like I said, it's a 5-day training. It costs a lot of money. COVID set everybody back. I'm sure everybody's sick and tired of hearing COVID, but unfortunately it took that training and it set us back. And if we could get into the early intervention programs for traumatic incidents, we can decrease a lot of the mental health to the officers, and hopefully can address the mental health that we have going on in the community, because the calls are happening. In this last week alone, we've had many uses of force. Fortunately, they were mild in manner. There was just handcuffing and mental health we shipped to the hospital, and we're seeing an increase in that. And we've been fortunate with our de-escalation techniques and our training to not have any serious incidents that have happened, but there is an uptick. So what does this program look like? If you see that, we have an office that we dedicated in the lobby of our police department. For those of you who have had the privilege of coming down here, we've renovated it quite a bit. It looks much better. The office is not within the police department itself. It provides security within the lobby, but it also provides a little bit of privacy. So in that office, we've dedicated laid out some desks, and we've dedicated 2 desks for some part-time private civilian social workers that would work with our mental health team, which is Tamara Stepien, the officer that would lead this in a full-time capacity. And she would be able to get those referrals from the police officers, go all out to those things and follow up on those types of calls. She would be replaced in the rotation system by the officer we're asking for. The money that we're asking for in this budget would replace her, so she could be dedicated to hit those target areas for that data that we're constantly obtaining. You look on the bottom there, the return on investment, a little summary. We talked about the records management system. We talked about the investment. Tamara, we're in several thousands of tens of thousands of dollars in her training or her education. The return on investment for us is that we're ahead of the curve. We have a police officer that would run our mental health team rather than a social worker. the benefit of that, there's a lot of challenges. And one of the challenges to the agencies that have been successful in integrating civilian social workers is that they had to overcome our language, our culture, the community itself. They've had to overcome safety issues, where Tamara, she already has a lot of those in place. She can work with those social workers. She can work with our officers. She can educate us on how different people act with different mental health diagnosis. And also she can educate the social workers for a more safer approach to what we're doing, because there are some additional concerns with just throwing social workers that are out there doing that. And, you know, we're trying to build a better team. And I can say this because I have met with the state police commissioner. We are in the process now of working with a local university, Central Connecticut State University. They've reached out recently this week. They want to put together a program. It's a certificate program if you have a bachelor's degree. And if you possess the ability to some of the traits that are good with social workers, you can go through their program. We're in a process of development, or we're hoping we're going to develop it with a collaboration of that university. They've reached out to us because of our approach to mental health and how we're addressing the accountability bill, to work on what that certificate program would look like. So when you got through that, you were a social worker, a licensed social worker, you still have to do clinical hours, and you certainly didn't have a master's, but you had a certificate program on working with and understanding at a higher degree what we're faced with mental health. We've spoken to our academy staff down in Meriden, a post that Sergeant Lee spoke to about, and to develop more types of training for crisis intervention and support. So, you know, our goal here is preventative and to be proactive. And, you know, we've always been ahead of the curve here in East Windsor, certainly the last 10 years on the certain types of things that we're seeing. And I think that's why we've had the success that we have had. With that, Chief, am I missing anything? I'd like you to fill into the gaps.
Yeah, so we're looking at wraparound services already with social services. We're talking about working in that youth engagement area. The schools are also in contact with us. We're also talking about sharing potential grant money and involving their counselors and things of that nature. The simple CHR payment I wanted to talk about that was discovered by the first selectman earlier in the week was a little more than $23,000. That's already being covered by a grant. And I've talked to social workers and to Tamara. They can't deny us what they're getting paid for with that 23,000. It's actually useless money. So for the 56 we're asking for the police officer, I think you can remove 23 from another area of the budget as a potential cost savings, because we just don't need that payment and should have never been paying that payment. So that's our mental health team. We'll entertain questions on that, obviously, but I just wanted to close that part of it. This is what police reform looks like. Everybody in the nation, towns and cities in the state and in the area, this is what they're looking for from their police department. We were creative, inventive, we worked as a team, and we've been getting ready for this well before the George Floyd incident, and we're ready to do some good police work here and be creative. It's grassroots. Again, we've met with all those people that was on the merits of the reform that we're putting. Once they saw what we were doing, these requests were made by us or to us from the commissioner, post academy staff, now Connecticut State University actually building a graduate certificate on our program. So I think that's pretty impressive. We're ready to do a lot of good for the community with this program. And I truly think this year, it's not just a budget decision, it's a community decision. Your neighbors, your constituents, these are what they're calling us for. They're contacting us for, and they need help and they need service. Anything anybody wants to add from our team before we go to questions? Deputy, nothing? So that's the police department end of things before we move on to emergency management.
Thank you. How do you guys want to do this since I can't see you with the screen being shared? So just kind of yell to me if there's whoever would like to ask a question, or just let me know.
Carolyn, it would probably be easier if you let them do the budgets that they have and then took questions on all of them at the end.
Okay. Either way works.
So here we are, emergency management. The deputy and I will handle this one. We'll move rapidly through this one. So some of our accomplishments, we employed the Everbridge Suite community notification system. That's up and running. We worked with and continue to work with state emergency management. We're in Region 3. We've been working very hard on COVID. I know we're feel like potentially coming up to the tail end of it, but there's a lot of work to do with the pandemic, and it's been a crazy year. We still do our tabletops, our group exercises, working with Unified Command. Generator at the town hall annex was also done. And then we had a community liaison, Denise Menard was added to the group, as well as Lieutenant Carl was added to a group as well. So now there's a lot more of us doing a lot of the work that's going on. We still have to work in the shelter operations. We have work to do there. We've been dealing with the first selectman on that. That's going to definitely be a challenge. We have to really work towards maintaining our supply of PPE, and we've been doing that. We're working on our emergency operations plan. The deputy chief has been diligent on that, and we'll have something updated by probably the end of the year. We're continuing with our succession planning, working on vaccinations. We're now contributing a lot of people towards the North Central area. In fact, we're doing workers in Vernon so that they can have a good clinic there. We'd like to say goodbye to the pandemic. I don't know if that'll happen this year or not, but we sure as heck want to. Deputy, you want to handle the budget?
Certainly. Budget's pretty much self-explanatory. Stipend change was agreed upon this past year and just carries over to this year, but it does seem like an increase, but in fact it's flat. We have $8,565 increase in the phone line. The main reason is that's where we have planned to pay the Everbridge Suite that the chief mentioned earlier. That's the community notification system via the telephones. We have $1,000, requesting $1,000 increase in the maintenance because we have the additional town hall annex generator, and that covers all the generators in town as far as 2 maintenance a year per generator. And the total increase is there at the bottom, $23,355.
That's it.
Now you do have us down as Deputy Chief Hart. You do have us down for the communication line. The communication line is actually a line that is handled out of the First Selectman's office. Many years ago, the sitting First Selectman asked the chief and I to manage the line because it seemed like a place where people would frequently go and take the money out of the line. And at the end of the year, we were left with not a lot of money to repair our radio system if something went down. So we do have a part of that, but mainly that is the first selectman's line.
Again, thank you very much. So board members, I'm going to put it out to you right now so that if there are any questions, because actually tonight, this is our only presentation. And then we're going to go on to discuss and make actions on the final budget. So does anybody have any questions?
Hey, just a couple of questions. And well, first a comment, obviously, thanks for the presentation. I thought this was great. You guys obviously put a lot of time and effort into this, and it's very well prepared. And I think that the everything you're proposing is very in line with what we need in the community. Just a couple of clarifications. Obviously, you guys talked a lot about the accreditation. And this is just for my own information. Will what you've done with the Connecticut, with the state accreditation, if you're forced to do the national, for some reason, say this bill does not pass, does any of that like translate or transfer over? Or are you essentially starting over new with this new accreditation process?
That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked it. We went to the Connecticut tiered system for several reasons. One being money, and it's a lot more affordable. The other part for me was it was tiered. There were hoops you can get through, feel that accomplishment, and it kind of drove you to go to the next tier type of thing. So the deputy chief can probably go deeper into CALIA, but if you get all three tiers, you're basically going to be close, if not CALIA certified. So there definitely is a transfer. How accurate am I, Dep?
Yes, this is Deputy Chief Hart speaking. CALIA, when the state went to put together an accreditation system, they looked to CALIA as the example. So they simply pulled in CALIA standards, which are nationwide standards. And they added additionally about 25 standards that were only for the state of Connecticut. So believe it or not, the state of Connecticut standard has more standards than CALIA, and it is more appropriate. But to answer your question, Mr. King, it would be flawless that we would move from state accreditation to CALIA.
Okay, awesome. So it's really just that additional fee that they charge you
Absolutely.
versus where the state got it. Okay. And then just second question, and again, might be a little silly, but that's one of the things I like to know. You talked about the radar stuff. Is that predominantly for signs, or is that for like the guns where you're tracking the speed?
That's another great question. Go ahead, Dep.
Yeah, when I spoke of the radar units, we have two handheld units that are laser units, and we also have 6 cars equipped with radar in the vehicle. And some of those are getting a little bit old. The antennas wear out, the cabling wears out, and they just need to be refurbished a little bit.
Okay. And what do we have for radar, like the signs that show kind of, hey, you're going too fast?
We currently have 2 mobile signs and 3 permanent signs. We have one on Newberry Road, and we have 2 on Natick Road. The 2 portable ones, we can place them in any place we like, and we have live feed via a cloud system that shows us what's occurring live on our desktops in our office. So they're a very nice product. Those are the ones that I mentioned earlier. They cost about $4,800 each, and we currently have 2 of those.
Tremendous analytics available through there. You can generate reports. I believe the first selectman has seen those reports, times of day, speeds, average speeds, when we should deploy our officers there to have a dramatic reduction. What the actual sign does when it's up, we can tell how much traffic is slowing down because of the sign itself. It's a great tool.
Awesome. That's all I've got. Thanks, guys, again, for all the info. Really great presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Anybody else? Going once, going twice?
Geraldine,
Okay.
how many officers in total will we have with the inclusion of this new position?
We currently have 25 sworn officers when we're at full staff, and we'll go to 26.
Actually, Chief, you're forgetting Corporal Sheehan.
Who's deployed in the military and is away. So we do have that. We're required by law to hold that position for 5 years. And I believe he's been gone for almost 3.
So the number would take us to 27.
Okay. And then there's been a lot of conversation with this new position about moving money from the Youth Service Bureau, like everything's going to kind of get combined together to create a position, sort of. I just kind of want to get a feel for, if you have this position, what does that eliminate from the current Youth Services Bureau that really is not functioning at a great level? Whatever the school has in place for these things, are we going to be combining you guys, this position, does it start to combine things with the school and Melissa's department?
So the main part is we need a patrol officer so we can release Tamara to that position. The youth engagement that you're talking about, that amount of money, which they've been having tremendous difficulty getting some bang for their buck out of it, is going to pay for the civilians, the 2 part-timers, to do that youth engagement work. And it fits right in with what we're going to be doing. We also do youth engagement, family counseling, homelessness, all that stuff. Tamara's going to oversee those 2 part-timers. So in actuality, it will augment, improve, and really get us to wrap around services. They'll work closely with Melissa. And in fact, myself, I have a meeting with Dr. DeBarge sometime next week, I believe Thursday, where we're going to start seeing where the school fits into it, so that you have the juvenile matters. Don't forget, we have a school resource officer that we want to plug into the system as well. The program's going to allow not only the initial taking of calls, but that follow-up, referrals, bringing other agencies in for help. It could be a parent who wants help with their kid because they have an opioid addiction, or someone who's living homeless, or things of that nature. We're talking about in addition to that youth engagement stuff.
Okay, that's good. So it's all going to fall under her as far as
Yeah.
these social workers and whatnot go. And then, since you touched on the school resource officer, is that part of your current staffing, or is that school resource officer something that's done, paid for by the school board?
No, that's in our budget. That's all the numbers that the deputy just gave you. That's part of it.
Okay. And then just the school system has a line item. My 3-year-old is saying hi to you all.
Hi.
They have a line item for a security officer. Do they have a separate security officer, or is that money that they use to fund the resource officer?
They have a separate security officer. They don't fund the school
All right.
resource officer.
They don't fund you anything for who you're sending there. Okay, and then my one other question was, and I'm not sure where I heard it, but there was a conversation about the issue of truancy at the high school, or in all the schools. How would the officer and that social worker system work into that truancy problem?
That's another thing. I believe Lieutenant Carl might have had some conversation on that, but that's going to be part of the meeting as to how deep we're going to get involved in that. I think it's something that we could. Somebody want to jump in there?
So,
No,
go ahead,
I'll
Debbie.
jump in initially, and then I'll kick it off to Lieutenant Carl. Melissa has been tasked with the truancy problem with our community right now, and we've offered to help her with the SRO's involvement. It's not uncommon for a police department to assist Youth Service Bureau or Human Services in enforcing truancy issues, because truancy issues aren't always what you think they are. When you think truancy, you think that it's the child not going to school, but truancy issues sometimes have to do with people going to the school where they don't reside. And those are some of the things that police departments frequently will get involved and assist in youth service bureaus in dealing with these situations. So it makes perfect sense, as the chief had mentioned, the wraparound services for us to be involved in that, whether it be through the SRO or Tamara's position if it does in fact make the funding process.
Okay, thank you.
Those were excellent questions. I thank you for that, because I think it shows the true value of the program and what we're trying to build. It could really have a positive townwide impact in a lot of different areas.
Bill, were you going to ask questions too?
Thought I saw Bill sign.
Yep, I just wanted to say, I was very impressed by your presentation, and it's, I'm glad you guys are ahead of the curve, and, I think just to say thank you for your time and efforts, and I'm in support of what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? We all good? Karen, you're good? Tom, you're good? Tom and Tom? All right, looks good then. If we have no other questions, again, thank you very, very much for another very good, insightful presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, have a good
All right,
night,
guys. So now we go on to asking Jason to probably pull up the budget on our screen so that we can start going through any of the changes that we made and start approving each piece of the budget individually. Typically going with the selectmen and continuing down in that order and passing each department, making a motion for each department. And then at the very end, if we do make it to the very end and feel comfortable with where we are, making a motion to pass the whole budget with the dollar amount, the mill rate, and all of that. Are we ready? All good? All right. And so when we do this, remember, I can't see you again, so just speak.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
it's Rebecca. Do
Hey,
you,
Rebecca,
is Bill on now? Do you have to put him back in as a regular?
you are
member?
correct. We have to make a motion to, somebody needs to make a motion to put Bill into voting capacity now that he is in the meeting. He's got to stop. Sorry, guys, that was my dog. Sorry. Go ahead.
Motion to put Bill back into voting capacity.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Tom T.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Karen,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Tom T,
Yes.
and Noreen.
Sure.
Motion clearly passes. All right, so we're gonna go on to the selectmen's budget. I don't think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because this was a while ago. I don't believe we made any changes to the selectmen's budget. I believe that we left it as it was at the proposed. Am I correct? Anybody think it was different than that?
I think you're correct.
All right, so if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the selectmen's budget at the highlighted amount Jason did in green, well, he's gonna put it in a color for us. We'll go from there.
This is Bill. I'll move we approve the selectmen's budget at $280,585.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
Dave King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion clearly passes. All right, next, I don't think we have to do anything with charter revision because it's at 0. So Jason, we really don't have to make a motion for that, do we?
I'd err on the side of just zeroing it out anyway.
Okay. All right, so does somebody want to make a motion to make the charter revision 0?
This is Bill, I move we,
Motion.
go ahead. David
Who
did.
was that?
David,
All right, so Dave made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Bill.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Then we would move on to Ethics Committee, one that we did not make any changes to again. If somebody would like to make a motion for that.
This is Bill, I move we approve that Ethics Commission at $500.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those, sorry, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion clearly passes. Next would be Board of Finance, another that I believe we made no changes to. If somebody would like to make a motion,
This is Bill, I move we approve Board of Finance, $53,125.
is there a second?
Second that.
Was that Tom Talamini?
I'm sorry. Yep. Yes.
Any discussion?
Unwise to vote against the Board of Finance.
All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion clearly passes. On to assessor. No changes on this either. Do I have a motion?
This is Bill, I move we approve assessor at $211,510.
Is there a second?
Yes. Tom. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
Dave King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion clearly passes. All right, onward. Next would be Board of Assessment Appeals. Another one that there are no changes to. So if I could have a motion,
This is Bill, I move we approve Board of Assessment Appeals at $1,725.
is there a second?
I'll second. David King.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we're on to tax collector. So it is highlighted in pink. So we must have made a change. If you look back at my notes.
We did not make a change. We left red just in case we wanted to put the part-time salary position in for her.
Ah, correct. Thank you. And I think by the end of the night, we were okay with not putting that part-time salary in, if I am correct.
That was,
So if go ahead, Bill.
I think that's what we agreed, but I don't remember if there was any other comments to anyone to speak to on that.
Well, so let's do it this way. If somebody wants to make a motion to approve it as where it sits, and then in discussion, if somebody does not agree, we can discuss it there.
All right, with that, I'll move we approve the tax collector at $139,691.
I'll second that. Tom T.
Right, is there any discussion? All right, we're all good with it, then, all in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, so then we're on to treasurer. She has herself highlighted in yellow, but if I remember correctly, she said she made the correction, right, guys?
That's for her salary increase that was granted after the
Yep,
budget.
and she had made it, so we're all good in that.
Good. Yep.
All right, so if somebody would like to make a motion for the treasurer's total,
I'll make a
This is Bill.
motion
Go ahead.
for $257,846 for the treasurer.
okay, that was David King in a second.
I'll second it.
Karen, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion clearly passes. Onward. Okay, Capital Improvement Committee. We made no changes, so if we could have a motion.
This is Bill. I move we approve capital improvement committee at $750.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Tom T.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are on to legal, where again, I believe we were all good with the selectmen's proposed budget. So if somebody would like to make a motion,
This is Bill. I move we approve legal at $280,000.
is there a second?
This is David. I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. All right, so now we're on to activities fees where we did have a lot of different things that we wanted to go over. So one of them, we have all our highlighted. Memorial Day, I think
That was
that
just
was the
because
increase for flags, right?
flags, yes.
Right.
Yeah, and we were okay with that. We did say we needed to discuss the cemetery association because we weren't sure if we were comfortable going all the way up to $25,000. If we did not, if maybe we would slowly increase it this year, the next year and onward. So where are you guys sitting on that?
This is Bill. I move we put the cemetery association at $20,000.
All right, is there a second to put the cemetery association at $20,000?
I'll second that, Tom T.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Then next would be community health, which I think through the presentation from the police department and the selectmen, we have heard that we could make this line item a zero. So if we could have a motion to make this line item a zero.
This is Bill. I move to make community health at $0.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, Dave King, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, for town fair we have highlighted, and I think that was because we increased it knowing that we were, I don't know, is it because we're the town that's supporting it this year?
For the host
Yeah,
town
so we
candidate.
have to- They said we had to do trash pickup, so she's budgeting that in.
All right, so if somebody wants to make a motion for that,
This is Bill. I move we change Fort Town Fair to $5,000.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, David second, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yes.
So the motion passes. So I think that was it for this department.
Yep.
All right.
So this is
And
Bill.
the total did change, right?
So this
Not
is
that I
Bill.
don't- Not that I don't trust you, Jason.
There's a formula.
All right, so would somebody like to make a motion on activities, fees, and associations?
This is Bill. I move we approve fees and activities, fees and associations at $121,685.
Is there a second?
Second it.
All right, Karen for a second, and is there any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, onward. So now on to information technology, which I think we made no changes and we're comfortable with the selectmen's proposed budget. Does anybody want to make a motion?
This is Bill. I move we approve information technology at $254,797.
Is there a second?
This is David King. I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. On to town clerk. No changes on this budget. So if we could have a motion,
This is Bill. I move we approve town clerk at $148,093.
is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Karen, second it. Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, on to register of voters, where some of the changes were made for food, dues and fees, and election workers, which we had our presentation to tell us why. So if we are all comfortable with those line items that were put in, we can pass the budget at the bottom total.
This is Bill. I move we approve register of voters at $71,436.
Is there a second?
David King. I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
That motion passes. Now we're on to planning, where the budget is at 258,909, but we do have highlighted advertising. And I'm not
I don't
sure
remember.
where we went with this, to be honest.
I think we bumped it up already to $3,000,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken.
I think you are correct, Bill, because I think the new planner said he didn't think that was enough money.
Yeah, and that looks to be the only thing that we changed in that budget. So if you guys are comfortable with that budget sitting at the planning number, we need to make a motion.
This is Bill. I move we approve planning at $258,909.
All right, is there a second?
Second that.
All right, any discussion? All right, so all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yep.
All right, now we're on to planning and zoning, which no changes. So if somebody would like to make a motion. Somebody?
I'll make a motion for planning and zoning for $3,100.
All right, is there a second?
I'll
This is
second
Bill.
it.
I'll second for someone.
All right, I'm sorry, you lost me there. Who got the second?
Karen.
All right, so any discussion? All those in favor? Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
I'll move we approve zoning board of appeals at $1,400.
Second,
I'll second it.
Bill.
Tom T.
all right, any discussion? All those in favor? Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we're on to property insurance. If somebody would like to make a,
This is Bill. I move we approve property insurance at $180,000.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Inland wetlands,
Move we approve inland wetlands at $1,800.
is there a second?
Tom Lanzner, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. On to Veterans Commission.
I'll move we approve Veterans Commission at $1,200.
Is there a second?
Tom Lanzner, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Agricultural Commission.
I move we approve Agriculture Commission at $500.
Is there a second?
Tom Lanzner, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Conservation Commission, if somebody would like to make a motion.
This is Bill. I move we approve Conservation Commission at $500.
Is there a second?
Tom Lanzner, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next,
This is Bill. I move we approve Police Department. Oh, so sorry.
wait, economic development first.
Move we approve Economic Development at $1,225.
All right, is there a second?
Tom Lanzner, I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Now we are on to the police department.
This is Bill. I move we approve the Police Department at $3,794,941.
All right, so is there a second?
Yeah, Tom Lanzner, I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
I'd just
All
like
right,
to say again, I think they're heading in the right direction. They've done a lot of work, and I think these guys are really on top of their game, and I think they have a great plan.
All right, anybody else? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, we are on to police commission.
This is Bill. I move we approve Police Commission at $1,725.
Is there a second?
Tom Lanzner, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. So now, next, I would say that we make a motion to zero out the fire line.
This is Bill. I move we approve the fire department line at $0.
Is there a second?
Tom
David
Lansner, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now on to emergency management.
One thing that is a difference between what they presented and what's on the budget is equipment maintenance. They had it at 7,000. This budget only says 6,000.
True. Hmm,
Hang on a second, let me check that.
okay.
Same note.
And the information that Chief DeMarco and Deputy Chief Hart presented tonight, they had $7,000 on their screen, and this is only in at 6,000.
And in our book, it's at 6 too.
No, in our book, it's at 7.
Is it?
Yeah.
Good catch.
Oh, that's the generator. That's the maintenance on the new generator. That does need to be 7.
So I'll move we change equipment maintenance under emergency management to $7,000.
All right, is there a second?
David King will second.
All right, and I think we discussed it already. And all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now you got to do the total, somebody, please.
This is Bill. I move we approve emergency management at $40,715.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in,
I'll second.
oh, sorry, I thought I heard Karen second it. All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Now we are on to building. And in our question was our professional services.
That was, I think, given to us at 30. We dropped it to 20, figuring that if Rand did get the permit money in from the solar pit grid, whatever the heck the solar farm is, we could use that money to cover the expense of professional services. So,
Yep, so if we're all comfortable with that, if you want to pass the total,
yeah. I move we approve building at $183,248.
is there a second?
Karen Christensen, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Then a motion to zero the fire marshal.
This is Bill. I move the fire marshal be moved to $0.
Is there a second?
Tom T, I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All right, those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Communications, it was just a dispatch Holland. You guys had a question about the, what that was after everything else had been taken out, and it was East Windsor Ambulance after we found out, so I think we were fine with that. Leaving the communication line at $30,900, am I correct?
Yes, we, someone did question why we were paying for it, but they do provide a good service to the town.
Yep. So somebody wants to make a motion for the communication line?
I'll move we approve communications at $30,900.
And is there a second?
David King, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
No.
Motion still passes. Then we are on to Public Works. And I don't believe, I mean, we had a lot of discussions about that. I think that we're all comfortable with the number. So if somebody would like to make a motion for the Public Works line,
This is Bill. I move we approve Public Works at $1,019,369.
is there a second?
Karen Christensen, I second.
And is there any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini,
Yes.
and the motion passes. Next line, I believe, is town properties. And we had highlighted hydrants, and I believe that Amy updated that for us, and that's why we highlighted it. She was letting us know that she put in the correct figure. And so if anybody wants to pass the bottom line total,
I'll make a motion, we approve town properties at $1,113,925.
and is there a second?
I'll second that. Tom T.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, the motion does pass.
Geraldine, I'm sorry, was that on hydrants or was that on the bottom line?
That was on the bottom line.
I misheard that. Before we go further, can I ask that we go back to Public Works? I have a very brief presentation I'd like to offer in light of some opportunities that I think are in front of us. And I'd wanted to ask for your consideration for a professional services line in town properties. But without Amy here, I don't want to mess with the UCOA. So I'm looking at the DPW professional services line. Could we reconsider Public Works?
Yes.
Then you need to make a motion to reconsider Public Works, Mr.
Why don't
Syme.
we, actually, can we just table that or leave it as is and let's discuss, finish the budget and then we come back because they're.
Sure. Sure.
All right, so let's continue on and we'll come back to that, on to road improvements. So if we can have a motion, because we have discussed this and comfortable with the figure.
I'll make a motion to approve road improvements at $450,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any
Tom, please.
discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, so the motion passes. Then we're on to building committee.
I'll make a motion, we approve building committee at $1,200.
Is there a second?
Karen
I'll second.
Christensen, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Wish I could give you guys like nicknames, KC, DK, TL. It would be
That's
so much
fine.
easier.
It's fine.
So much easier. All right, we're on to sanitation. We have highlighted hazardous waste. I think we talked about it. We talked to Joe. I think we became comfortable with, not comfortable, but we agreed we were okay not putting it in this year, but want it in next year. Am I correct with that?
This is Karen Christensen. I think I'd like to see it in this year.
Okay. So what you would have to do is you would have to make a motion
Okay,
We have to discuss again and go from there.
okay, I'll move that we add back the 15,000 for hazardous waste.
All right, and can we have is there a second on that?
Tom Lansner, I'll second.
All right, and any discussion?
So I have a couple of points that I just introduced. I know that Public Works is working on setting up a hazardous waste collection opportunity outside of a fixed collection date. That would likely be less than the cost of doing hazardous waste collection. And I expect that there will be a plan in place for that by the end of the calendar year. But the other point that I would make is 15,000 doesn't do it. That's a $20,000 budget item. 15,000 is just going to be money that's parked there and not able to effectuate the program you're trying to do. So for those two reasons, I'd suggest not moving forward with that.
Yeah, and I have to say, after talking to Joe, and I actually talked to him more further after, and I think he's on this call too. I talked to him further after being on this call and realizing that hazardous waste is just one day for, he's going to refresh my memory. I think it was 3 hours, 4 hours, something to that effect. I mean, that's a lot of money for 4 hours. And then talking to Tom Talamini, who's like, there's not lead in paint anymore. And so there's a lot of, listening to the cost of it and what you get for it, and knowing that they're going to work on something that's going to be much more beneficial. I don't think we're putting our money in a good place. That's just my opinion.
Well, my opinion is
Yeah.
that I've been there and I've taken stuff there and there's always a line. So I think there's a need.
So one thing I would just add, and especially talking with Joe and, with other folks after, I think so long as that we have a plan, but more importantly, that it's advertised and that we're getting communication out that, hey, here are your options for hazardous waste. To me, kind of that's the biggest benefit of the day, is that it notifies everyone in the town that this is what you come and do with this stuff that you can't get rid of. But if we're going to make an effort to do that and have that available 24/7, or, not 24/7, but, every day of the year, I agree it kind of defeats the purpose or it addresses the purpose of having one day at $20,000 through outreach.
Anybody else?
Carolyn, it's Noreen.
Yep.
Jason, I know Joe talked about it a lot the other night about coming up with another plan for it. And you just touched on it. Do they need money in order to make that plan work?
So it's in the beta stage, but the thought is to have it be a fee for service, a nominal fee that people pay to come and get rid of their antifreeze or pesticides or something that doesn't have a stewardship component to it. Paint has a stewardship component to it. Mattresses have a stewardship component to it. I think Freon-based appliances has a stewardship program attached to it. So there's a lot of the stuff that the state already has support programs in place to remediate. But I know Joe was talking about it just today, the progress he's already made on it, and without kind of tipping his hand entirely, I'd invite him to share with you what he's trying to do. I think the first step was on cardboard, but he can talk about where his thoughts are.
Are you there, Joe? He might not be there anymore.
Late.
He's
Yeah,
not there.
He's
Oh,
there.
there he is. Are you there?
He just unmuted himself.
I thought he did. I thought he said he's there.
Well, maybe he doesn't want to tip his hand quite yet.
There you go. All right. So any more discussion? All right. So let's do this. All those in favor of adding it. Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
No.
Tom Lansner,
No.
Bill Sine,
No.
Tom Talamini.
No.
Motion does not pass. So if we could have a motion on the bottom total for sanitation.
I'll move that we approve sanitation at $1,018,460.
Is there a second?
Tom Lansner, I'll second.
And is there any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
No,
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. All right, so onward to the next. Can we scroll down, Jason? Jason? No.
I'm getting to it. Patience.
I didn't see you on my screen anymore, so I thought I lost you or something. All right, so we are on to senior services, where I think we were comfortable with the number after the presentation. If somebody can make a motion.
I'll move that we approve senior services at $252,300.
All right, so that was David King at $252,387. Is there a second?
Tom Lansner, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
yes,
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. On to Elderly Commission at 500.
So before you do that, Karen, there's some background noise coming from your computer. Can we just mute you if you're not talking so that it doesn't interrupt the sound? Looks like she did. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so a motion for Elderly Commission.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve elderly commission at $500.
All right, is there a second?
Tom T, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
yes,
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, so we are on to social services. Could I have a motion?
This is Bill. I move we approve social services at $177,371.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
David King is second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
yes,
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, so we are on to libraries, which we discussed and were highlighted because some were in favor of going up to 20, some were not in favor of going all the way from 20 from the earlier number. So not sure where you guys want to go with this one.
I'll make a, do we need to approve the individual line item or do we just need to go to the bottom?
It's,
I think we can just go to the bottom. I don't think
Well-
that we changed this number. I think
We
this
did
was
not-
the original number.
it's 20,000 was the original number. We have not
Yeah.
changed it yet.
So we weren't changing it. We were just discussing it. So she highlighted it to remind us.
So I'll make a motion to approve libraries at $305,500.
All right. Is there a second on that?
Yeah, Tom Lansner, I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
yes,
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
No.
Tom Talamini.
No.
Motion still passes. I think it was on the total, Jason.
It was for the total, yes.
Yeah. Because the 20 was original. Now we are on to recreation, where I believe we did have no questions and the balance was 304,872. So if we could have a motion.
This is Bill. I move we approve recreation at $304,872.
Is there a second?
Tom Lancer, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
So the motion passes. Historical Commission,
Move we approve historical commission for $500.
is there a second?
Tom Lancer, I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Board of Education, when we left off on the other night, you guys have brought it down to a 1.5% increase, leaving it open to further discussion tonight. So where do you want to go with this number?
This is Bill, and I can't remember what the original number was. I don't have, can't find my note.
I can tell you, I want to say 2.9 is where they began, then they brought it down a little when they had the insurance adjustment to 7-ish and change, I believe.
Yeah, I think we moved 100. Oh, I think, right?
They were close to 3%. We brought it down to 1.5%.
Yeah.
They're 2.75%.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's 2.75.
Yep. A lot of items you guys brought up, Tom Talamini brought up the LEDs, the numerous times we've asked them to get that underway with all the incentive programs and things going on. He's disappointed in that. Felt that could have saved a lot of money. Let me look at my notes. What else? You guys refresh my memory if there's stuff I'm not, Noreen had brought up the amount of grants and the beginning grants versus the grants that they are using, plus the money that will be coming in from the other program with the $2.2 million was brought up. And and they don't have a lot of rules compared to where the town has rules that they have to follow strictly. They have a lot more flexibility where they can spend their money. Other notes I have that you guys brought up. I think somebody brought up the number of technology staff, the 5. The number of students was brought up at 960 or 80. I can't read my writing. And, taking a look at the total budget brought it to somewhere in the average of $26,000 a student. And that I think is all I have for my notes. Have I missed anything else you guys brought up?
No, I think that's it.
All right. And that is where you landed. So where do you want to take it from here?
Well, it looks like, and Jason put the number in there, we've cut $210,000 approximately out of that. For the number we have on the screen right now, they brought them to 1.5%.
Great 10.
Yeah. And one of the spots that I did
Sorry,
miss, I just looked at it, Amy gave us the analysis of the cafeteria, the amount of money in the cafeteria sitting in there right now, and that they have it in this budget, that they put money from the last budget in it. So that was another thing that you guys brought up, the amount that is
Yeah, that
sitting
was
in
like
there right now.
They have like $160,000 in that fund right now, I think she said.
Right, and they had already rolled, correct me if I'm wrong, 300,000 ended up in there. We gave them their 2% and they had like 750,000. So we gave them their 2% rollover of 450, and they put that other in the cafeteria, if I remember correctly, the way she presented it to us, if that's what you guys remembered. So that was another item. Sorry, I missed that.
I would just say a couple things. Obviously, it's difficult because the Board of Ed ultimately decides line item by line item what gets approved. I do think we need to be aware of the fact that obviously there will be a pretty significant amount of money coming to the school system through the COVID relief aid. However, I know we discussed flat funding. I think there's also a component in the budget of just standard increases that the Board of Ed and, our schools are going to have, and that fund that with one-time, grant or relief money. So I think coming in at a number that's reasonable is the goal here. And I think this is, given the constraints we have, kind of our best shot, where we want to try to cover those recurring and permanent costs with the actual budget line item, and then allow them the flexibility to use the, again, significant amount of grant money they have coming in for the special projects and services that they need to put in place due to the pandemic.
Anybody else?
This is Bill. I think we might be a touch strong at 310,000 reduction, but I'd like to hear what others have to say.
What number, what do you have in mind, Bill? And again, this is where it's tough because, like just trying to go through some of the items, and it's like in my head, well,
Right.
medical, dental, 66,000, like obviously we shouldn't be trying to rely on.
No, and one of the things I still don't have is I asked for an analysis or to have them send me the whole blended thing when it comes to the whole blended insurance number, the number of retirees, the number of people, not names, obviously, just the numbers. I think that's one of the frustration levels. We ask for stuff, we don't get it. That is a definite frustration with me. And, it's just a simple ask. I mean, just as well as the LEDs. So I just would have liked to see more detail on this whole blended insurance thing. I mean, on the town side, it's straightforward for us. It's a percentage. They, tell us what, how much it is. I just feel, I do believe we let them roll over the $452,000, which is a good thing. I think you guys came to a fair number in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. I think you guys did a good job. But you're also quiet. So now I'm going to just start picking on each of you. So you have to say something. Mr. Talamini, what is your opinion?
I'm okay with what we gave them, but I do agree with you, the frustration level when you ask for something, you never get a response. And that does kind of sour you.
It doesn't sour me. I like more knowledge. I just like to see more information, but I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Just
all right, Karen. Comments, concerns?
I'm comfortable with this number, this 25 million. It seems fair to me. Given all.
Yep. Noreen, I know you're not voting, but still your opinion matters to all of us. Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The one of my biggest concerns, and you can't pinpoint it, you can't get it tracked down, is the decrease in students. It's dropped substantially. I think it was over 1,100 last year, and I think it's 980 now. And if those numbers don't go back up, they don't go back up. And as you extrapolate, it raises the cost per student because we can't change our funding again. We can't go lower. What we give them this year, we have to give them at least that next year. So it's a hard thing. And I know I have people in calling, and Jack Manette sent the thing about our per pupil price is way high in the educational group that we're in. And it's a hard thing to pinpoint and figure out, but what we give them, we have to bear in mind that we have to give them at least that next year. In order to get the state of Connecticut to not penalize us for giving them less money if this student count doesn't come back up, it's not on us, it's on them to go in and try to get that waived. And I don't know how difficult that is. So that concerns me. But
Okay, Tom Lansner?
Yeah, I agree with Noreen. And I know Dr. DeBarge had offered to have a little session with David to explain some of the financial, especially the grant finances. And I'd sort of like to participate in that as well, just so as I get a better understanding of some of their financial sources. But in general, I would agree with whatever the rest of the group is comfortable with.
All right. Dave, I know you already talked, but just any more?
Yeah, I mean, but I kind of agree with Bill that the 310 might be a touch heavy.
All right, so why don't we do this? Because we could sit here all night hem and hawing. If somebody wants to make a motion at this 25,070,500, and we'll do a second, we'll discuss it. If it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, we start over, okay? So do we have a motion at the 25,070,500?
I'll move that we fund the Board of Education at 25,070,500.
Is there a second to that motion? Thank you, Karen. Sorry, that was Karen.
This
There's
is Bill.
sec-
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Sorry, Bill. All right, so there's a first and a second. Any more discussion?
You know, Noreen makes a great point. I mean, about the funding for future and the problem we're having with our schools is, I mean, we have the teachers in place and, you know, if this number stay down, I mean, some of those teachers, they can offer some more courses and you know, because sometimes your course selection in these ones there is thin compared to other communities. So I understand, you know, there's a way to reuse your teachers, but what happens to us is the overhead costs as their students go up because there's nothing we can do about the cost of operating the schools, the maintenance, the this, that, the other thing, all the things we need to do without putting the students in the seats. And, you know, maybe they'll come back after COVID, maybe more people will homeschool. I don't know, you know, what it looks like for other towns with, you know, their numbers. But I believe the numbers will come back. It just is to where they come back to, whether they come back to where we're at. So she does make a good point that way. You know, we can be funding at $25 million and have the numbers go down too. And so that is a valid point. And, but again, you know, we want to make sure we're doing what we need to do and understand that our overhead costs are high. You know, some of it is maybe things that can be cut, but some of it can't be. And that's the part that, you know, I have some issues with. So but let's see what we vote. See where we go.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
No,
Tom Lansner,
No,
Bill Syme,
I seconded it, so I kind of got to vote yes. So I'm a yes.
Tom Talamini.
No.
All right, so now that motion has not passed, so you guys have to start over again. This is kind of, and you guys can think about where you want to put that number and what you want to do. Hey, Jason, are you on? Well, you're on, but can I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
So I was talking to a girlfriend who works in a different school system, and I just wondered this, and I don't know if it's even feasible in our town. But, you know, like Bill was saying, well, Tom was saying about the LED lighting, and then Bill was saying, you know, our overhead costs in our building and this and that. And the buildings are owned by the town, correct? They're town buildings.
But yes, they are town assets.
Okay. So in where my girlfriend works, the town takes care of the buildings. I mean, the town takes care of the buildings and the Board of Ed runs the administration of the Board of Ed. Is that something we've ever talked to them about doing? having our guys take care of the buildings that we own and get them running efficiently the way that we want them to?
There have been a couple of conversations between the superintendent and I that haven't borne fruit. The bottom line is yes, under the general statutes, a municipality can handle basically the business functions for a school district, while the Board of Education is responsible for the education components of the school district. In order to do that, you need not only the acquiescence of, but the instigation of the Board of Education to start that process. There's a general statute somewhere around the same one that allows you guys to roll that 2% amount forward each year that speaks to that. But the bottom line is it can't be a hostile takeover. It has to be something that the Board of Ed has to not just invite, but initiate.
Yeah, no, I wasn't talking about hostels. I mean, I just meant, is it a conversation that has ever happened? Because it just seems like it might be a better plan. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's just an idea.
Christine and I have talked specifically about electric costs, but that's the extent of it. You know, I mean, and you guys are as well versed in the audit findings as anybody. You know, I mean, I think that's a conversation that the town side would welcome, but that's not something that is very far along that path.
Gotcha. Okay, so in my conversation on Ed, gave you guys a few minutes to look at your number and try to figure out where you want to go. So go.
I was thinking somewhere in the range of, minus 250. I know it's not much, like an extra 60,000, but especially if you think about some of the things they highlighted, like that could be turning a math tutor into a math teacher. Obviously, we saw in their presentation that our students definitely need the extra help in math, or it could be reinstating of after-school programs, which I think we all know would be really vital for bringing back kids to school. I remember when I was in high school a long time ago now, but it was very frustrating to have to wait for my mom to come pick me up, which oftentimes meant I was hanging out for hours, so getting that late bus home, I think definitely helps. And again, I know it's tough because we, can't specify what we want, but I think I would feel more comfortable at that number. So yeah, 25,130.
What is the percentage at that, Jason? If you put that in, the percentage of increase?
Yeah, hang on a second. I just don't want to lose my.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
1.75.
$1.74, Mr. Syme.
Wow.
So I would make a motion unless there's any other discussion.
Make it.
All right, I'll make a
Over
motion.
25 grand a student. Go ahead, Dave, sorry.
We'll make a motion at $25,130,075.
Is there a second to that motion? Ouch.
This is Bill. I'll second it.
Mm-hmm. Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen,
No,
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom T.
No.
Still passes.
Oh.
All right, so debt service. I
Bill,
think
move
we're
we approve- Yeah, Bill, I move we approve debt service at $1,028,023.
Is there a second?
David King, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
yes,
Dave King,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom T.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I shortened that. Sorry. Capital improvement. Motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve capital improvement at $1,014,668.
Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second
second
that.
it. Bill,
Whoop, who was that?
Bill, I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Stein,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. And now on to employee benefits. And I think that those highlighted are just corrections that Amy put in for us when she got the information she needed. So I think we really don't have to do those. That was just her letting us know the corrections were made. So we can have a bottom line total on that. Anybody?
A motion, we improve employee benefits at $3,483,267.
Is there a second?
Tom Lansner, I'll second.
And is there any discussion? All right, so all those in favor, Karen Christensen
Yes.
and David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini. Jeez.
Yeah, yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, we're on to contingency. And that was just letting her, again, her letting us know that she adjusted the figure.
Down.
So do I have? Oh, who was talking?
That was Jason.
What's up?
She adjusted that figure down because it went, which transferred into the treasurer's salary line.
Yep. So can we have a motion?
A motion, we approve contingency for, can you move that, Jason? $104,756.
Is there a second?
Tom Lansner, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Karen,
Call
oh,
it.
sorry, Karen Christensen, sorry.
Yes.
Oh, God. David King,
Yes.
Dave, Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
Now, Bill, do you want to move on to our revenues or do you want Jason to do
I
his
want
thing?
Jason to bring up his project.
Okay, all right, sounds like
Okay.
fun.
So I think that we are about to see a tremendous opportunity in the near future for investment in infrastructure in town. As you all know, the federal government is looking at a more than $2 trillion infrastructure bill. The state just saw an improvement in its bond rating for the first time in many years. And we're on the precipice of extended bond capacity here in town too. If we're not prepared for this, we're going to miss the opportunity. And we need to have plans in place to capitalize on the opportunities when they come. And we need to be able to execute those plans in that order. We can't look for some sort of a funding solicitation and then say, you know what, that sounds great, sign us up. We're going to go get cracking on a project proposal that we'd like you to consider. That's just not how these things work. If we don't have anything on the shelf, we're going to miss the opportunity. So given what I think the unique opportunities of the moment present, I think we need to be a bit more forward thinking than we historically have been. A good plan will help us to be prepared to seize the opportunities that are coming, to meet the needs of the community moving forward, to realize efficiencies in municipal government, control costs, and engage citizens in the process. But we need a plan. These are the projects that we have that would be considered shovel ready right now. Rebuilding South Water Street would cost about $4 million. There are culverts that need to be replaced on Highland Avenue that would cost about $750,000. And there's a culvert at the East Windsor Reservoir that would cost about $500,000 to replace. That's all we have that's shovel ready. So when the infrastructure bill comes out of the federal government sometime this summer, fast and furious, we don't have very much to throw in the way. When the state, if our legislative delegation were to get us a bond approval in the bond authorization bill, we don't have much more than that to go on. We haven't been as proactive historically as we really need to be to see meaningful improvements happen in our own community. So what I'm interested in pursuing is a plan for a municipal center. These are the benefits that I think that proposal would bring to the town. We can move town hall, the senior center, and community services at the annex into one place, which would reduce costs incurred by operating separate buildings, which we currently do, would allow for adequate facility space to meet our changing needs and allow us to take advantage of those state and federal funding opportunities that are in front of us. One example that I would throw out, this coming Friday, we're going to be administering 410 coronavirus vaccines at the annex. We can't do any more than that because we don't have enough space. If we had additional space, we could do several hundred more than that with the system that we have in place that we've emulated from other communities, but we're limited by what we have. And so I think there's an opportunity here for us to take a look at the service delivery that constituents in the community could expect in an economic way. But we need to know some things before we can move forward with this. We need to know where a project like this would be located. We would need to know what the cost of the project would be. We would need to know the savings that this could lead to. If we're only operating electric costs or heating costs in one building versus three, what does that translate into real savings? What space would we need to have available for the programming that we want to offer? What would we do with our existing facilities? These are all questions that we would have answered if we had a plan. So if we aren't ready, we're going to lose the moment. This is how we pay for it. So the ask is $100,000 to be put into the budget for a spec book for a community center. I wanted to add it to town properties professional services, but there is not a line there. So I think it would make more sense to add that to the DPW professional services line so that we can pay for a professional to come in and actually do an analysis of this. We need to start someplace. We need to start sometime. And if we don't act now, we're going to miss the chance. So I think that we could offset some of the costs associated with this ask from the money currently budgeted for CHR, which you guys took out, the $23,000, and redirecting a portion of the funds that were reduced from other places in the budget to get to that $100,000 number. That's what I'm hoping you guys will consider. Because if we don't do that, this is where we'll be. Pretty much nowhere. And the opportunity is going to come and the opportunity is going to go, and we can wave at the money passing by as other towns who are more prepared than we are scoop it up, and we remain stuck where we are. So that's my ask, short and sweet. I'm not as good at PowerPoint as Chief DeMarco is, but I'm not. I mean, let's be honest, I'm just not. But I thought that was worth considering given the particular circumstances this year that have really just popped up. So that's what I'm asking, and I understand if you guys aren't comfortable doing that, but I would be remiss if I didn't say I thought it was something that the community needed to consider. And if we don't have a plan, we're going to stay right where we are.
So Jason, a couple of quick questions. Is it fair to say that this is not necessarily committing us to one project, but it's would essentially be evaluating the viability of projects and then giving us the cost of, say, a variety of projects if federal grant money did kind of open up?
It is fair to say that if federal grant money opened up, we couldn't get it without a plan. So the $100,000 would be about what we expect would be about the cost of one plan book. So if you were to do if you wanted to do more than one project, it would cost more money than that. But in order to get something that's truly shovel ready in the sense that the state or the federal government says, you've got your act together, we're interested in supporting what you're doing. That's the cost of doing business, is that upfront investment. And if there's an opportunity where, we can get somebody else to say, I'll pay for 85 or 90% of a project that would benefit the community, and you're on the hook for 10% of it. I really don't want to be in a position of saying, boy, we'd really like to do that, but we don't have our act together.
Hi, this is Karen. Can you go over to the revenue summary though, and let's see where we are before we add another 100 grand?
I'm not sure that this is synced up that way.
Well, let's just see.
I'm saying I don't know if the changes are going to do anything.
Okay, no, they're not. Okay, but can we put the change in? Can you just put it in? You can always take it out.
Jason, I
If I
think
know
you
how to
have to
do it.
put the changes on her budget changes sheet
You've got to go from
for
there,
it to
right?
calculate it out.
All right.
Or you
let's
can
try
just
that.
pop the number in under, well, yeah.
Shoot.
Undo that, Jason. If you go right click and copy and see if you can, or just write down the number, I would say. 'Cause it's copying the formula.
Copying the formula, you can't do it that way.
Or actually see if you can paste just the value. Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
Also no revenue sheet. So it's
So if
still
you-
a tax decrease of 0.93%.
Okay, but if you added another 100 grand, what would that do to it?
You guys are asking me to step well outside of my skill set here.
Hey, it's a learning
41.
process. You can do it. Just add 100 grand. Oh, okay, or do it that way.
Still a decrease of 0.64%.
Okay, then I guess I'm okay. I was hoping that we would be able to reduce the amount taken from up farther. I can't remember what it's called. That's 750.
Fund balance?
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm okay with it then.
Before I forget, I'm going to undo that.
Undo it.
There we go. Okay.
This is Bill. David kind of asked a question along the lines I was going to ask is that, we don't know what dollars are going to be available and, if we, what other project, I mean, is it just one project or is it a scope of projects? So, I mean, I'm obviously in favor of having stuff ready because we don't want to lose dollars that are available to us. But yeah, you did answer our question because like I said, I'm sure there's other projects in town that can be looked at, but.
Well, I'm thinking about it. We're not talking about things that we would typically bond for. We're talking about things that the federal government is going to bond for. When they need more money, they turn the machine on. When we need more money, we have to go through a very rigorous process, and it's not really the same type of financing. So I mean, if those other projects that we would consider doing locally are things that we probably would be able to do. This is that moonshot moment where we're taking an advantage of that monies that are not going to come again in any of our time here. So I'm trying to figure out something to do that would be meaningful. And I don't know that this government center thing would be it. But it seems like a really reasonable place to start the conversation. And that would be, before it was expended, it would have to be something that's discussed at the selectman level. And, it just seems to me, if you're going to do a once in a lifetime thing with once in a lifetime money, you got to be ready to do it.
All right, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like I said, if they came to us and said, here, we can give for infrastructure, we can give you, $1 million towards road improvements, we can use that. But if, with your pie in the sky project and we don't have a pie in the sky project ready to, we can say, this is what we want to do. I see where you're coming from now. So yes, okay.
Representative Foster has actually had a conversation with with her caucus leadership about that pie in the sky proposal. And when we told them, a ballpark of what the cost of something like this would be, they didn't hesitate, but we don't have a plan. So without a plan, we have nothing.
So now, Jason,
Hmm?
you mentioned when you were just saying that to Bill, that anything that you would choose to do with this $100,000, even though we're putting it in professional services, anything you would choose to do with it is something you would have to pass by the Board of Selectmen first, right?
Something I would pass before the selectmen first, and even if it wasn't in our direct control, if it was a department level control, I would direct them not to spend it until the selectmen approved it.
Right, okay.
And by the way, the department I'm looking at are guys I trust pretty intimately.
So basically, I think, and again, just forgive me, but I want to make sure I understand it. So what this would do is this would start the process. And what we would do is we would say, look at a bunch of sites around town that could be viable for whatever we want to call it, a consolidation of town services, a community center, something like that. And we would then, the Board of Selectmen would choose one of those. And that would be the plan that say, hey, this is our future potential, town consolidation and community center. And the idea is to have this shovel ready in case we do have an infrastructure project. And
well,
there's,
I'm not sure that the selectmen would be selecting the site. My hope would be that we would be able to bring on a plan designer that would actually be able to run those cost comparatives, in terms of building it out and cost savings, dependent on different locations. There's 4 locations I can think of off the chute that would be reasonable places to consider putting something like this. There's the Kogut property, there's the Broadbrook Mill, there's the acreage across the street from the museums on the green, and there's Solent North on Gardner Street in Warehouse Point. Those are all going to cost us different things to do based on the available infrastructure and the input costs associated with that. So if we had a sense of what those costs would be and the opportunity were there, we could then say, you know what, we can make this work, and we're going to get, this, menu A of opportunities. But if we did this, we could make menu B available, and then we can actually have a sense of what that conversation is. But without, just trying to do it on the back of an envelope is not going to get it done.
This is Bill. I got one further question. If I were to put this $100,000 in the budget this year, I can take it out next year?
Sure.
And and truthfully, it's not, and I'm very much in support of it. And I think that we have to have a plan and to use it. My only fear, Jason, right now is that, our very first step this budget season was to put a 2.5% mill rate in for Broadbrook Fire on the Broadbrook side. Any average taxpayer on this side of town is going to get anywhere hit from, I don't know, $600 to $800 a year additional in their taxes. And that's without this budget even going through. So it's like, I just wish, I think it needs to be in there. I think you need it so that we can have a plan and we can get our money. I just don't know. I mean, the ask that we're asking for some of the taxpayers this year because of that amount we put in, it's hard.
Well, keep in mind that there's going to be 3 questions on the ballot for the first referendum. It's should the added appropriation pass, it should the town budget pass, and it should the Broadbrook Fire Department pass. In no matter the outcome, the town budget is still going to be a reduction in tax liability. It's just a question of, do you want it to be $3 off or $2 off? To draw an example, but you're still going to be paying less to the town than you were last year. If the overall tax implications, but that's what the democratic process is about. If the voters decide that they want to fund the town budget, but they don't want to fund the fire service because the fire service is going to go up considerably, that's for the voters to decide. Same thing with the town budget, and
yep.
The circumstances here are, if the town budget were to fail 3 times, we're spending more money. By actually not a little bit.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So it seems like
I get you.
Geraldine, it's Noreen.
Yep, go ahead. Sorry. I was just waiting for somebody to speak up, so go right ahead.
I think it's money well spent. it- We don't plan for anything. We pretty much chase down every problem, everything. And from a sad perspective, and I'm all for a community center. I mean, I think that we are long past a community center. I now have a 3-year-old granddaughter who lives with me, and I take her to the parks and I sit there and I say to myself, my 30-year-old used to come and play on this equipment, the same equipment, sit on the same benches, swim in the same little pond. It's 27 years. And we have always thought about it. We have always said we need to do something. We've always said we need to improve town hall. The senior center is horrible. And all of that is true. And we just never do anything. I think the opportunity is there. We should grab it while we have an opportunity. And even if that opportunity doesn't come through, if we don't get bonding money from the federal government, whatever it may be, I personally think spending $100,000 to start a plan, to get some idea, to be able to have conversation about where this town wants to go and start to improve things it's necessary. We've got to start taking a step forward, and this gets us at least moving forward. And I honestly think that there should be something that we have and I know we got capital improvement, but, more real conversation about, where do we want to be 10 years from now? Do we want to still be dealing with ditches that are falling under the ground? Do we still want to have our seniors in the upstairs of a firehouse, or do we want to try to make some headway? And I think it's money well spent.
Yeah, I would just add to, like, honestly, with the opportunity, obviously we don't know what the federal government's going to do, but the fact that there is the prospect of an infrastructure bill, it would almost be financially irresponsible to not have a project ready and to be able to take advantage of that and do something that we haven't been able to do here in town.
This is Bill, and I'll just speak to the comment Geraldine made. And I do agree that, the Broadbrook Fire Department budget is strong, but in reality, I think it's sort of a real budget, because volunteerism in the fire department is hard, to get the members they need to do what they need to do. And, it's a lot cheaper than a full-time paid fire department if we had no volunteers and we weren't able to do this part-time program. That's why I made the motion to let the voters decide. But I do agree it's strong. But again, we are saving on the town side, so mixed feelings about everything. But I think as we have to look at the community as a whole, and for me that has a farm and a business here in town, and I operate a large business in town. When with a lot of heavy equipment and machinery moving inside of it, and knowing that there's a staff fire department, when one of my employees, heaven forbid, they ever make a serious mistake, is a peace of mind for me in a way too. So that's why I think we've put together a fair budget, and I will, with that, make a motion to add $100,000 to the professional services line under Public Works to make it $114,120.
I will second that, David King.
Oops, any discussion? Any more discussion?
No, I think it's time that we, look to the future a little bit more than we have in the past. And, like I said, I'll put it in this year. I'm not going to say I'll leave it in for next year.
All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Move
You
on to
move-
revenues.
Can you move to update the department total?
Somebody make the motion.
Yeah, this is Bill. I'll move.
Oh, sorry, what's up, Rebecca?
You need to make a motion to reopen Public Works first,
You're right, we do.
since you've already voted on it.
Yeah, did we Bill, you did vote on Public Works, didn't you? Or did you table?
No.
Rebecca, did we
voted
vote on it?
We voted on it, then we're gonna go back to it. So yes, it does need to be, I assume it needs to be reopened.
Has to be reopened because you voted on it.
Yeah.
Yep,
so
gotcha. Okay, so let's do that first.
I move we reopen Public Works budget for discussion.
It's Karen, I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Karen Christensen.
Yes.
David King.
Yes.
Tom Lansner.
Yes.
Bill Syme.
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now let's make our other motion.
Okay. I move we adjust the professional services line with Public Works to $114,120.
Is David King, I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And I'll move we approve Public Works at $1,119,369.
I'll second that, Tom T.
Any discussion? All right. Well, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Oops. Yeah, no, that's all right. Budget changes.
So did we approve our revenues yet?
No.
I don't think so. So we got to get to our revenues. Refresh my memory because it's getting late and it's 20 at 10. Did we just approve the totals last year? We didn't approve every line, right? We just did the total.
We just approved revenues as, the only thing we discussed was the transfer from fund balance because everything else is pretty much.
Yep.
And then we approved the revenues at one line.
All right. So we would want to approve the revenue line.
Yeah, and I'm just looking to find it here. Which is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for my notes. It's
What are you looking for, Bill?
I'm looking for the number. I just can't seem to put my finger on it. Is it? No, that's the budget number. Oh, just the taxable balance, or what number do we put in there? I can't forget the number we use.
Is it the 6,349,000?
No.
Oh, that's state revenue.
Oh, okay.
I think we approved the tax revenue, right?
Which is this number.
33.
33, yes.
Okay.
And then we're all good with the fund balance number because I think we approved both of them as two line items, the tax revenue and local revenue. And the biggest thing in local revenue is because we have the transfer from fund balance in there. So I will move we approve a tax balance, tax revenue of $33,632,900.
Is there a second?
Karen, I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
and Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. So now that brings your town mill rate to 34.50, which will bring it, that got small, Jason. Does that say negative 0.22?
It sure does.
Okay. So not only do we have to do the mill rate, we also have to do the final total
Yeah,
for
we
the
got
town budget.
Town budget of, and then with a
Yep.
mill rate of, so.
Yep.
41,822.
What?
It's 41,826,779.
Yep. So this is Bill. I move we approve the town budget for fiscal year 19, no, it's 19, wow, I'm really off. 2021, 2022 of $41,826,779 with a mill rate of 34.50 and forward to referendum.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Tom T.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, Karen Christensen,
Yes.
David King,
Yes.
Tom Lansner,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Talamini.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, so we are done. We are done, we are done, we are done.
So
So we do have to discuss the mailer. But we don't have Amy here. And she does the mailer for us, so that's kind of difficult.
Well, we have a meeting for the 12th, but should we just make a quick meeting just to discuss the mailer and be done with it?
Amy will
She
be
is on
vacation.
vacation.
Oh, okay.
What you could do is you could discuss the components you want included in it now, and she'll have the video to go off of.
True. I mean, she did a really good job last year. I mean, I think it's gonna be pretty much on the same lines as she did last year. So I guess what we could do is have her just kind of take last year as a outline and maybe get something together and shoot it in an email to us and just do it that way,
Yeah. I was
since
gonna
she's
say-
not here with us tonight.
I was gonna say, the format she used last year, I thought was very informative and worked well, so I mean, I'm in agreement with that.
Well, yeah, and it was easy to read and it was pretty straightforward.
Absolutely.
So I think it got the point across. So why don't we have her do that? We'll just ask her to follow the outline of last year with the information that we have this year. And create something for us and we'll just take a quick look at it. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good. Number 3 is just board member comments. I think we've made a lot of comments. So do we have anything else?
So just, Gerald and Jason, just going back again on the mailer.
Yeah.
You guys can approve that at your April 21st meeting, right?
I'm sorry, you cut out on my computer. I don't know what happened. What'd you say?
You can approve it at the April 21st meeting, right?
Yeah, yep, at our normal meeting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yep. All right, so it says upcoming meeting dates, but we do not need the April 12th meeting date anymore, so we'll have Amy cancel that. And we'll be all set with that, so we won't need to do that. We'll just have our normal April meeting. So with that, we would have a motion to adjourn.
Well, before you do that, there is another executive order that came out today pertaining to municipal budgets. I forwarded it to everybody in their email. Did anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, well, why don't you give me a brief synopsis with the mumbo jumbo meant?
So there are a couple of things. The first is that for any referendum that happens prior to May 20th, no excuse absence balloting is extended, which is actually, I personally think, a good public policy decision. The other thing is there will be a requirement that we have a secure drop box outside of town hall, which we never moved, so that's still available. There are provisions in the executive order that allow for the budget making authority. No, I'm sorry, it's the Board of Selectmen, to adjust the timeframes associated with municipal budget approvals for any referendum that's likely to happen prior to May 20th. So we can move things around so that there's more clarity on state or federal aid. I would tell you, I don't think we should do that because Our dates are prescribed by charter. And at least in the event that the referendum is not successful on the first try, anything that we do to monkey around with the process wouldn't be covered for potential referenda 2 and 3. So I just raise it to your attention because it is budget related and you guys are the budget authority. I just think it would be foolish of us to monkey around with it. I think we have everything, we have our ducks in a row. We know where the money's coming from. We know what the money is going to be. We know what our expenditures are going to be. We should just run with it like it's a normal year. But I raise that as a conversation point because you guys are the ones who should be talking about that. The selectmen are the ones who have the authority to do it, but I think we would heavily rely on your recommendation there.
Thank you.
So that's the rundown.
Thank you very much. All right, anything else, guys? All right, so if somebody would like to make a motion to
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Tom Talamini. Is there a second?
David King, I'll second.
All right, David, thank you. Any discussion? All right, I'm gonna change up my order. All those in favor, David King,
Yes.
Karen Christensen,
Yes.
Tom Talamini,
Yes.
Bill Syme,
Yes.
Tom Lanzner.
Yes.
Motion clearly passes. We are done. Thank you guys for another, well, first round budget season. Let's hope we are good to go. We shall see. And we'll see you all on the 21st. But I will talk to Amy when she's feeling better and we'll talk about the budget mailer and send something out. And also, like I said, finalize it at our April 21st meeting. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody stay safe and be well.
Good night.
Good night.